Hello everyone, I am Kenshin. Welcome to Talking History. On April 20, 2024, a major drug scandal broke out in the world sports arena. 23 Chinese swimmers were surprisingly allowed to participate in the Tokyo Olympics despite failing doping tests. This has immediately sparked controversy. Before the program starts, please subscribe to this program, like, comment, and also turn on the notification bell. The New York Times disclosed in an investigation report on April 20, 2024, that 23 Chinese swimmers tested positive for a banned heart disease prescription drug in a doping test 7 months prior to the Tokyo Olympics in 2021. However, they were secretly allowed to participate in the competition. As reported, the drug helps increase the stamina of the athletes and reduces recovery time. Almost half of these swimmers still participated in the Tokyo Olympics as usual. This has led to public criticism of global anti-doping agencies. Including a US player who won a silver medal at the Tokyo Olympics expressed her outrage, feeling cheated, in the Chinese team's victory. Another British Olympic gold medalist called for a lifetime ban on these athletes who tested positive. What's more interesting is why did the World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA, allow athletes who failed the drug test to compete? Their contradiction with the American Anti-Doping Agency, along with the releases of statements and legal threats surfaced. For example, Greg Meehan, the Stanford University coach who once led the US team to the Olympics, pointed out that, at any time, if a positive doping test is not clearly explained and appropriate procedures and regulations are not followed, it will make the innocent athletes doubt. However, this is actually learned from China's big brother Russia. Putin and even earlier leaders have let the entire Russian sports circle use doping. Don't believe it? Then let Kenshin tell this story. First, let's talk numbers. Do you know how many medals Russia has had confiscated due to doping? It's a whopping 48, 4 times as many as the country in second place, accounting for more than 30% of the total. Furthermore, Russia has the most athletes who have been found to have taken stimulants at the Olympics, over 150 people, a record probably only Russia itself can break. Usually, athletes choose to dope by their own, but not in Russia. It is state-sponsored and systematic. According to reports, the Russian government has been found to provide steroids and other drugs to athletes, violating anti-doping regulations, including attempting to undermine ongoing investigations by manipulating computer data. The World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA, banned the Russian Federation from participating in all major sports events including the Olympics for 4 years in 2019. After Russia appealed in 2020, the Court of Arbitration for Sport, CAS, reduced the ban to 2 years. It allows players from Russia to participate in international competitions under a neutral flag and name. According to a report by British journalist Andrew Jennings, a KGB colonel stated that officials from the agency impersonated the International Olympic Committee's (IOC) anti-doping agency to sabotage doping tests and save Soviet athletes through these tremendous efforts. Concerning the 1980 Summer Olympics, a 1989 study from Australia proposed, at the Moscow Olympics, almost no medal winners, not necessarily gold medal winners, did not take one drug or another. The Moscow Games can usually also be called the Chemists' Games. It satirically pointed out that Moscow is the wholesale center for doping athletes. As for 1980, documents revealed in 2016 show the Soviet Union planned to establish a doping system in the national athletics, aiming at preparation for the 1984 Los Angeles Summer Olympics. The document was issued before the country decided to boycott the 1984 Summer Olympics, detailing the existing operation of steroids in the program and suggesting further improvements. This document, addressed to the person in charge of Soviet athletics, was handled by Dr. Sergei Portugalov of the Institute of Sports. This Portugalov was also one of the main figures involved in implementing the Russian doping program before the 2016 Summer Olympics. So next let's take a look at the performance of Russian doping athletes. In 2008, 7 Russian athletes were banned before the Beijing Summer Olympics for manipulating their urine samples. Several Russian biathletes were suspected of doping on the eve of the 2010 Winter Olympics. International Biathlon Union President Anders Besserberg stated, "We're dealing with mass doping among one of the strongest teams in the world." One report examined 7,289 blood samples from 2,737 competitors between 2001 and 2009, finding that the number of suspicious samples from country A significantly exceeded that of other countries, with one author stating country A was Russia. In October 2009, Pierre Weiss, secretary of the International Association of Athletics Federations, IAAF, wrote to Valentin Balaknichev that Russian athletes' blood samples showed some of the highest recorded measures since the IAAF began testing, and also indicated from the 2009 World Championships that there was strongly suggestive of systematic abuse of blood doping or EPO-related products. Then comes the internal whistleblowing. In 2010, Vitaly Stepanov, an employee of RUSADA, sent documents to WADA accusing RUSADA of systematically doping in athletics. He said he sent over 200 emails and 50 letters over 3 years. In December 2012, Darya Pischalnikova sent an email to WADA containing detailed information about a suspected national doping program in Russia. According to the New York Times, although the email was sent to 3 senior WADA officials, the agency decided not to initiate an investigation. Instead, her email was forwarded to Russian sports officials, revealing WADA's corruption. In April 2013, Pischalnikova failed a doping test for the second time and was banned for 10 years by the Russian Athletics Federation, RUSAF, presumably in retaliation for her whistleblowing. In December 2014, ARD broadcast the documentary by Seppelt, Geheimzeit Doping, wie Russland sen Sieger macht, Secret Doping, How Russia Makes Its Winners, which claimed Russian athletics officials offered banned substances in exchange for 5% of an athlete's earnings and colluded with doping test officials to tamper with test results. As a response to the ARD documentary, in 2015, WADA commissioned an investigation led by its former president Dick Pound. The investigation report was published on November 9, 2015. A dossier of 335 pages was described as damning, particularly by the British Guardian, documenting widespread doping problems and cover-ups by the Russian authorities. Even the Federal Security Service, FSB, would routinely visit and quiz lab staff, directing some to not cooperate with WADA's investigation. This report recommended that IAAF be declared non-compliant with anti-doping rules, further suggesting that the International Olympic Committee should not accept any samples for the 2016 Summer Olympics from IAAF until compliance requirements are met. A day later, the World Anti-Doping Agency suspended the operation of Moscow's anti-doping center, prohibiting the lab from performing any WADA-related anti-doping activity, including all analyses of urine and blood samples. Following, Russian sports figures were massively exposed for their participation in doping. In January 2016, the International Association of Athletics Federations imposed a lifetime ban on former Russian Athletics Federation President Valentin Balaknichev and top Russian coach Alexei Melnikov. In June 2016, a documentary by ARD implied that Russian Minister of Sports Vitaly Mutko covered up a football player's doping behavior for the FK Krasnodar Football Club. On July 18, 2016, Canadian lawyer Richard McLaren, commissioned by the World Anti-Doping Agency, published a 97-page report concerning a major doping event supported by the Russian state. The report concluded, unquestionably, that Russia's sports ministry, Russia's National Team Sports Training Center, the Federal Security Service, FSB, and the Moscow Medical Institution authorized by the World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA, put into action a disappearing positive test methodology (DPM) within a state-directed fail-safe system after Russia's poor medal count in the 2010 Vancouver Winter Olympics, to protect Russian athletes who were taking banned substances. Next, let's enjoy Russia's shameless statements. In February 2017, Andrei Silnov, vice president of the All-Russian Athletics Federation, held a press conference in Moscow with a former Soviet athlete, where he declared that East Germany's success, gained through state-supported doping, was the legal result of good pharmacology and should not be condemned. In November 2017, an International Olympic Committee disciplinary committee led by Dennis Oswald implemented first sanctions after a year-long investigation into Sochi. As of December 22, 2017, 43 Russian athletes were sanctioned, and 13 medals were stripped. On November 16, 2017, the World Anti-Doping Agency declared Russia still non-compliant with its code. 10 days later, the International Association of Athletics Federations decided to maintain the ban on Russia participating in international athletics, stating that the country had not done enough to resolve its doping issues. On December 5, 2017, the International Olympic Committee announced that the Russian Olympic Committee was immediately suspended from participating in the 2018 Winter Olympics, but allowed Russians who had not engaged in doping and had a history of ongoing drug testing to participate in the Olympics. An initial list of 500 Russian athletes was proposed for the 2018 Games, 111 of whom were immediately removed, including 43 who were sanctioned by the Oswald Committee. The remaining 389 had to satisfy some pre-game conditions, such as further testing and reanalysis of stored samples, and would only be considered for invitation if they met these requirements. The final number of neutral Russian athletes invited to compete was 169, with 168 participating in the end. Even so, from 2018 to 2019, Russia still had doping issues. The World Anti-Doping Agency subsequently suggested declaring Russia non-compliant again and banning it from hosting sporting events for 4 years. But does Russia comply? Apparently not. The scheduled presentation ceremony for the Olympic figure skating team competition on February 8, 2022, was postponed because Kamila Valieva was tested positive for doping, officially confirmed on February 11. Valieva's samples were collected by the Russia Anti-Doping Agency, RUSADA, at the 2022 Russian Figure Skating Championships held on December 25, but the samples were not analyzed in a World Anti-Doping Agency (WADA) laboratory. However, at the time Valieva was a minor and was classified as a protected person, according to WADA's guidelines. The Russian Anti-Doping Agency and the International Olympic Committee announced on February 12 that they would extend their investigations to include her entourage, such as coaches, team doctors, etc., allowing Valieva to dodge a bullet. But it's astounding that Russia would make a minor take banned substances. On March 23, 2023, World Athletics announced that the Russian doping ban would be lifted after nearly 7.5 years since it was imposed in November 2015. Turning back to the doping exposed by the Chinese Communist Party, why would WADA still give a pass to problematic samples? This is certainly an unavoidable issue of accountability. However, both WADA and the Chinese Anti-Doping Center strongly deny allegations of an attempt to cover up test results, stating that all applicable laws were strictly adhered to during the investigation. Gunter Junger, director of WADA's Intelligence and Investigations Department, even said that the organization had thoroughly investigated every lead and every direction of this incident. This is simply hard to trust.